Welcome everyone to our first episode here at Morgan State's Finance TV. My name is Shaton and I'm going to be your host for today. We're glad to have you all tuned in, and we have a very special guest, Mr. Temitope Ajibola. He is an entrepreneur, a speaker, but most importantly, he is a Morgan State grad. So welcome him.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Tammy, you can just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit more about you in depth, if that's something that you're interested in. What exactly do you do in your spare time? We know you graduated Morgan recently, so tell us how life has been so far post-grad.
Well, thank you once again for the privilege of being here. I mean, super excited to do this. My name is Temitope Ajibola. I'm originally from Nigeria. Just completed my MBA degree here at Morgan State, and was privileged to give a commencement address, one of the addresses on graduation day. Have a background in computer science from the prestigious University of Ibadan back home in Nigeria. And I spent over 6 to 7 years really working at the intersection of business and technology, helping to drive digital transformation and financial inclusion. Since grad, I've been doing more of being into entrepreneurship. Basically, just launched about 2 companies recently, still growing the companies. One is Timeless Venture Group. Basically, we provide AI and machine learning solutions. The second one is Uniserve. Basically, we are using artificial intelligence to help international talents in their mobility, across the globe. So it's been pretty intense. Anyone who is doing startup work or who is an entrepreneur will tell you it's not funny, and it's not fun. In code, it's not funny. It's a lot of intensity, but you have the privilege. There's this excitement that comes with birthing something new and solving people's problems. So that's one of the things that I enjoy being an entrepreneur.
Agreed. Congratulations on your 2 companies. I do know that is difficult. But you mentioned you're from Nigeria.
Yes.
So from Nigeria to Baltimore, how did that happen? How did you choose Morgan? Why did you choose the degree that you chose here at Morgan? So you can get into that.
So first of all, I tell many people most of the time that I'd usually seen myself here since 10 years ago. Back as an 100 level student. We use 100 level student back home in Nigeria. First year student back home in Nigeria. I'd seen myself doing international study, and I had loved the United States ever since. And when it was time to start trying to get admission here into the United States, I'd applied to several schools. The first year I didn't get any admission. I tried multiple schools. This happened for over 5 years, trying the United States, the UK, trying Germany and all of that. But I feel like when it was time, after I'd been able to be trained and exposed, because over that 5-year period, I was in the banking industry, helping to drive digital transformation project. One of the projects I did, we had received a grant of $1 million. So that kind of made me understand what I wanted to do. And so when it was time to start applying again, by the 5th year, I was clear on what I wanted to do. I was certain that I wanted to do fintech, and then I wanted the HBCU environment. I wanted the environment of people that looked exactly like me, who carried the same passion that I had. The passion for the black race. And then the HBCU community was the perfect place for me. And I found out that Morgan had a national fintech center. So everything was just perfect for me at Morgan, and that's how I found myself here in Baltimore.
Okay, sounds good. It sounds like a lot, but you were sure. Okay, but when you were here, when you got to Morgan, what exactly did you do here at Morgan? What clubs you were in? What jobs did you have? Internships? What sort of opportunities you pounced on while you were here at Morgan?
Wow, I feel like I could talk about so much that happened to me in Morgan. I want to say categorically, and even to many people that will be hearing this podcast, that Morgan changed my life. Morgan gave me the major opportunities that shifted me to another phase of my life. So when I got here, some of the opportunities I got, first of all, was getting to be a graduate assistant here in Morgan State at the Capital Markets Lab. So every finance-related stuff that was happening, finance-related programmings, the Student Managed Investment Fund, research across that, meeting different companies in the finance space. I was assisting the director of the Capital Market Lab. So it was it was fun for me, right? Getting to be exposed to all what was going on in the finance space. companies and helping to drive that. So that was phenomenal. After that, I also had to work with the Entrepreneurship Development Center here, helping to also design programming. Then we're trying to start an entrepreneurship development center here at Morgan. So I was a graduate assistant there too. And then afterwards, I think it was around that time also I got the NSC Fellowship. The NSC Fellowship is a very major one. I feel like that's one of the major highlights of my time being here. And I mean, it gave me opportunity to travel across the country, gave me opportunities to interact with people in C-suite leadership, gave me, I had stipends and all of that from that particular fellowship. Phenomenal fellowship. Also the University Innovation Fellowship. Sometimes in April, we'll be going to Netherlands for a meetup again. That allowed me to also be able to drive innovation here on campus. Then I remember interning at American Family Institute for Social and Corporate Relevance, right? So at AmFam, that was my first major internship, and I interned during school year. I mean, what I'm trying to say is during school, I mean, like during fall and during spring, that was when I interned 2022 fall and 2023 spring. Major experience because that exposed me to the venture capital space. I mean, I earned more money than I would have that I was earning in school.
I bet.
I got to work with founders. I got to travel a lot, got to do phenomenal stuff that I loved. So I did that. Then, did a couple of other things here on campus, was privileged to be nominated to go to the White House for a listening session with the Vice President of the United States. Also had the privilege to drive Morgan Hacks. Morgan Hacks is a platform for innovation that brings students from across the country together to come and create solutions, right? And launch those solutions possibly into companies. So did quite a lot of stuff that, and then there's one that we also did. We participated in a particular competition, and then we created proposed an app to the city of Annapolis, which won first place, and we got a citation from the mayor. So a lot of things that happened here in Morgan campus that really exposed me to prominent people and also shaped my life generally.
So when you were taking up these opportunities, like what drove your decision to participate in all of these things? Was it like trying to put it on your resume, get experience? Was it, I have bills to pay, this competition, this fellowship is giving me a stipend, I need to pay my bills? So like, what drove you to take up all of these opportunities? Because I know my first internship, I had worked with Goldman Sachs, 10,000 small businesses, and I was a fellow. I was a social media intern, and I just needed a job.
Yeah.
So, I needed a job and I needed a little experience on my resume as well. But the fact that they were paying me was even better.
Yeah.
And as a college student, we need income, we need to save,
sure.
we got to spend,
Certainly.
So like what kind of drove your decisions in taking up all of these opportunities?
I think it's a combination of everything you said.
Right.
Like as a student, you know where you're coming from. I'm coming back home from Nigeria.
Yes.
There's a lot of responsibility attached to my experience, especially even as the firstborn child in my family, and trying to break through new opportunities, enter new spaces, right? I needed new opportunities. I needed things that could put money in my pocket. Also, I needed things that could help me improve my skill.
Yeah.
Like getting into the venture capital space. I've heard about it before. I have the passion that I'm going to go back home sometimes, establish a VC fund, and be able to invest in companies coming out of Africa, right? So a lot of things about my skill, about the exposure, about the money, right? Those were major things that drove me to do it. So it was a combination of everything. I had a lot of issues going on, and I needed things that could help me sort those things out.
Yeah, I get it. So what were your expenses? Like, what did your expenses look like while you were here at Morgan? Because I remember you being at Morgan and you had a car, you had a separate apartment somewhere off of campus. And I was like, oh, this guy got money.
Oh,
but
my God.
what did your expenses sheet look like?
Yeah, I feel like a student, like you have normal expenses that students have. Maybe you might just talk about the car and all of that. Yeah, everything that you have comes with expenses. Being in the American environment, everything is charged. You know what I'm saying? So I had insurance to pay. I had my rent to pay. I I mean, and I could give you figures for all these things. I had insurance, I had rent, I had my university fees. I mean, my tuition was being covered, and then later on, my university fee eventually got covered by a new scholarship. But I had to pay that. I had normal groceries to buy, and then there were books that I had to also pay for. So it was generally all these things that students have to normally pay for, and then I also had to send money home. You know what I'm saying?
Talk about it.
It was a whole lot of that. But now I know you mentioned something about the car and all of that. I'm telling you, if I didn't get the scholarships I had, I couldn't afford the car. No, I wouldn't have been able to afford it.
So where did you find these scholarships? Like, where did you get them from? From back home? Was it from Morgan State itself?
So it was through Morgan State, and I want to shout out to to Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher, when you get to hear about this, I just want you to know that I'm grateful for everything you've done. So I remember, first of all, the School of Business had given me the Graves Scholarship, right? They had initially given me that covered my tuition, and then I had a graduate assistantship that helped my stipend. Was a stipend that helps to pay for other bills, like they call them living expenses. Those that are international students know the I-20 stuff. So it will usually just cover my living expenses. But once that covers your living expenses, you most likely don't have any other thing again, because it was just like that to just cover all the stuff. But I remember I was back home then when Mr. Fletcher kind of reached out to me and said, "Do you know about the Hennessy Fellowship?" And I said, "Yes," but they said it's only for the US citizens, and it was like, apply still. And I'm like, okay, if you say I should apply, I'm going to give you my best. And I gave him my best, and God helped me. And that's what I was having stipends of like 5,000 every semester, right? And then I had opportunities, to meet certain people. At some point again, by being able to network with people, I was getting into competitions, winning a few of them, and then that was bringing money in. So the fellowship, I got to know it through Morgan State, and some of the competitions I also won was through Morgan State. So being an HBCU this decade is a major joker. Let me call it. It's an opportunity if you know how to actually use it.
I agree. You brought up a very important point about applying to scholarships that you thought you wouldn't have gotten. And I think a lot of times, myself included, that I would see a scholarship or a fellowship or some program that could, help my situation. And I think, maybe this isn't for me because, I'm not a U.S. citizen, or maybe, I'm underqualified. So that's a great point that you brought up. You could feel underqualified. You could feel like this isn't for you, but you never know. So apply, right? The scholarships, the fellowships, the internships, the full-time opportunities, just apply. Let them tell you no. Don't tell yourself no.
Of course.
So that was a great point you brought up. So how much, what was your disposable income? Because you have the fellowships, we're talking about an interesting conversation, because like you said, the HBCU is prime time to be here.
Prime time.
And for myself, Morgan State they have me spoiled because I'm on a full ride. So
shout out to Morgan State.
Exactly. Everything is covered for the living expenses, the books, the tuition. So I'm truly privileged. And just about anything I make, if I make it on the side, I get to mostly keep for myself. But I am aware that not every college student has the same experience. I am definitely not the normal case.
Yeah.
So speaking to you, since you had bills to pay and all of these other expenses, like what would be like your disposable income after all of these have been covered?
So usually very, very careful when you want to talk about how much you have left, because of it's just wise and all that. I believe that I kind of had much more money left because of the stipend I was getting from Hennessy, you know what I'm saying? So I had that. So I had my living expenses covered totally through that. I'll give you an insight into what I was earning as a GA, right? So as a GA, I was being paid, I guess, about $15 per hour. And so and I couldn't work for more than 20 hours, you know what I'm saying, as an international student. So I couldn't do more than 20 hours. And so 20 hours per week. And I think the total of all of that, I was being paid like 600 and something every two weeks. So I had about 1,200 coming into my account, or coming to me, or coming to my pocket every month, right? And then I had to pay rent. I mean, I was paying something between 500 to 600. You know what I'm saying, for rent. And then I had, you have credit card bills to also pay. So possibly I was having at the end of the month expenses. I could have maybe something about 200 or 100 left. And I mean, sometimes you have to go out. This is America. You know what I'm saying? And then you go out. You want to hang out with your friends. You have to. And I mean, this is something that
I agree. I was going to ask you just now, like, what would you do with the remaining, like, that you saved? Because I am incredibly cheap. I don't like to go. I like to stay in my room because it's cheap.
It's very cheap.
And it's comfortable. So, like, did you prioritize saving? Did you prioritize yourself and leisure? Did you prioritize investing? Like, what did you do?
So for me, I saved to invest. So when I usually had goals to save. So I set goals for myself. For example, there were certifications I needed to take then. And so I'll tell myself, okay, this certification costs about 300 and something. I might not be able to save, get it out of my income immediately. So I had to maybe break it down and save and say, okay, over the next 2 months, I'm just going to be saving maybe a portion, maybe $50 or maybe $100. I feel like the old concept about even, to just drop it here about savings, you can't save if there's no goal, right? You need to be able to say, okay, this is the goal that I have for myself. This is the sacrifice I'm willing to make to be able to get something. And I feel, I read a book, I can't remember the name of the book, but the book is by a man called Tade Cash. I can't remember the name of the book, but it taught me some of the things that I do with money today. It taught me that the first place to invest is yourself. So most of my savings was for me to be able to invest in myself, possibly take courses, possibly do certifications, possibly when I went for certain competitions, I would prefer to take some of my money and pay somebody else to maybe build the prototype of an app I'm trying to pitch at an event, right? So because I wanted quality and I wanted to win, so I usually try to save with a goal at the back of my mind, and then possibly also invest in something that could improve me. Sometimes I invested in buying suits, right? Because I wanted to look very sharp when I'm meeting an investor. I wanted to, when I get to travel to meet C-suite executives, I wanted to show up well. So most of my savings basically were set towards certain goals, maybe to invest in a certification, maybe to invest in invest in a new dress that could present me well to employers. And I remember there was one of them I also did. I remember when I was having to actually get my car. I had a stipend, but I still had to put some money together again to be able to afford the kind of car I wanted to get. So I saved because there were goals, and it really helped me.
So I know you mentioned this book that taught you, some things about money. Has everything that you've learned about money management, has it come from reading books, listening to podcasts, listening to professionals? Has any of, the influence come from like your childhood upbringing in Nigeria? Maybe something your parents instilled in you? I know my mother, since I was a kid, everything is, she's not really finance or tech savvy or anything. It's like a very simple philosophy for money. And it's just basically you save some, you spend some, you invest some. That's it. That's all she said. She don't give me a percentage or anything like that. So has anyone told you that maybe from your childhood, something similar as that you could use or that you have used as it relates to your personal financial management?
So I think I have a couple people that have taught me stuff about money management. And I'm going to talk about the three of them real quick. One person that taught me about money management would be my dad. My dad usually will tell you that no matter what you get, try to save.
Save,
and
yes. Yes.
I watched this firsthand in the sense that we had expenses at home, and I never used to know how my dad was able to still come out to pay our fees back then as children. But even when mom could come home and say, we need to get this, my dad could tell her that he doesn't have the money. And then when I come back home and tell dad that I need to pay my fees, and then he goes into his room and brings out the money for me. So he taught me firsthand that you should be able to forego certain things that you need. It's called delayed justification. Forego certain things for what is most important to you. So he taught me that. I saw my dad teach me how to save. My mom taught me how to give to charitable causes. So she taught me to always pay a tithe of whatever I earn and give it to God, right? I mean, I'm Christian, so she taught me to always give to God, give a tithe of what I earn, like give it, like it's to charitable causes. The church has to use it to run, has to use it to take care of society and all of that. So my mom taught me that, and I felt like when I always did that, it gave me a sense of responsibility with the other things, because I knew, oh, God gave me the power to end this. Once I can acknowledge him with this, the remaining part, he also gives me the wisdom to understand how to manage it. So my dad taught me savings. My mom taught me how to give to charitable causes. And then most recently, I have a mentor, Dr. Froman. He taught me, so sometimes last year, he taught me that as a young man, you should be, or as a young person, you should be able to save to a point where you can have 6 months of your expenses covered, so you can, so in case you go out of job today, or you go out of work, or you don't have to work for the next 6 months because maybe something comes up, you have 6 months salary that could cover for your living expenses. So he taught me that. So these are 3 major people that I've interacted with personally that has taught me about money. And then I've also read some other book. There's the book The Psychology of Money. There's the book that I was referring to by Tade Cash. I'm going to get it and I'm going to send it to you. I can't remember the name, but that book taught me one of the most important things about saving to invest in yourself, that you are your first investment.
Yes.
You are the best investment you can ever make. Invest in yourself. Buy the books. Buy the right clothes. And you are not buying clothes because you want to
impress.
Just impress. You're buying the right clothes because you need to go for an interview, you need to meet an investor, you need to show up well, right? There's a part of scripture that says God looks at the heart, but human beings will look at your face, they look at your appearance.
Thanks for watching our show. We hope you're enjoying it thus far. But before we continue, be sure to follow us on our social media pages at MSU Finance TV or Morgan State Finance TV. Also, make sure to share our content with your family and friends who you think may be interested in the show. Now, let's get back to the episode. Okay, so Tammy, I want to get your perspective on something that was said to me a few weeks ago. It was by a student, and his remarks were, college students don't really make that much, so it doesn't really make sense saving the little that they have left. What's your take on that?
Well, like I said, money has a character. You must understand the character of money, and one of the characteristics of money is that you save. It's one of the ways to interact with money. You save first before you spend, and if you spend everything you have because you feel like it's not enough, you cannot actually create an avenue for money to keep coming to you. So like you said before, or like we've been saying on this conversation, it doesn't matter how much you're earning. There are certain things, certain principles you must have when it comes to dealing with money. No matter how little, have a goal at the back of your mind that you want to achieve, and then that will confer upon you the discipline to interact with money right. You save first before you spend. Agreed.
I think your attitude or mindset towards it also kind of dictates the habits that we kind of form as it relates to how we manage our finances. So like on just the topic of habits, are there any bad habits that you have? I know mine, I just told you a few seconds ago, was the DoorDash thing. Just buying food unnecessarily when I don't need to, and I wait until I'm hungry and I'm like, okay, I can't cook no more. I might as well just DoorDash something to me. So what bad habits do you have, maybe, because all of us have something, and then what's like your remedy? What are you currently doing to, break out of that habit? And, what could you share with the viewers who probably have similar bad habits to you?
So one of the bad habits I've had to break out of has been to always just spend. Like, for example, when it comes to food, like the same way you talk about buying DoorDash or just ordering or just going out to eat, like it's the most convenient thing to do. But if you actually want to be financially independent, if you want to get to the point where you can be able to command a level of financial integrity, a level of wealth, right, you must learn to cut out some of your excesses. So rather than buying DoorDash, why don't you cook? cook. I find out that it's cheaper to cook than to actually spend on DoorDash. What you will have spent, maybe you will have spent like $20 or $16 on DoorDash. You can spend less than that in cooking, or maybe you spend maybe about $20-$30 to cook certain meals, and it can last you for a week. What is going to last you for on just one meal? So being able to cut out your excesses when it comes to spending. Some other things, like if you're someone that loves clothes and all of that, it's not, you have so many clothes, you cannot even wear all of them, right? You can start telling yourself that, oh, I'm not going to spend more on this clothes anymore because I have these goals to reach. So I feel like the whole idea around setting goals, even when it comes to the money experience, is vital to be able to break out of bad habits, because goals will naturally tell you the kind of habits to keep to be able to meet them. Anyone who sets a goal already knows that there's a habit I need to keep, I need to have to be able to meet my goals. So the moment you start interacting with money that way, you'll be able to know, oh, these are the excesses, these are the habits I need to develop, these are the ones I need to stop to be able to reach my money goals.
Yes, and to add on top of that, I would say actionable goals as well, those SMART goals that a lot of people talk about. And start small. So if you order maybe 5 days out of the week, try cut it down to 4, right? And then once you conquer the 4, you may want to cut it down to 3. Once you conquer the 3, you may want to conquer it, cut it down to 2. So start small and practice discipline.
Yes.
But a lot of takeaways from our conversation today. I just want to tell you thank you for coming. I know you're a busy guy. And we're grateful to have you here. We're grateful for all of our viewers, and we can't wait to bring you back onto the show.
Definitely.
So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.